We interrupt this program to bring you...
You know your shoelace is untied. All right. Who wants some? Who's next?
All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of The Real Review. My name's Kevin.
My name is Adam.
And we are The Real Movie Guys. It's October, so you know what that means. Real Terror Month. Real Terror Month is a special month where we celebrate everything horror, talking about your favorite horror movies and letting you know what we think about them. This month, we're going to be talking about the Evil Dead series, and what do you know? It's come that time. We're talking about the third entry into the Evil Dead series, Army of Darkness. A sardonic hardware store clerk is accidentally transported to 1300 AD, where he must retrieve the Necronomicon and battle an army of the dead so he can return home. Wow, Adam, I gave you that summary of what Army of Darkness is, and that's exactly what it is. Sam Raimi once again reinvents the wheel of his series and gives us something completely different that I didn't know that I kind of wanted.
Yeah, it's once again a different tone.
Yeah, different genre.
While still keeping some beats from the previous. Honestly, both of them.
What happened here? I think that's really what we need to talk about.
Yeah.
What the hell happened here between Evil Dead 2 to Army of Darkness, quote, Evil Dead 3, quote unquote, Medieval Dead? That should have been the name of this movie. I don't know why that didn't
great.
I don't know why it didn't get greenlit with that name. I think there was like reasons marketing had not to use it.
Damn,
that's a missed opportunity if I've ever heard one in my entire life. So Army of Darkness is essentially an action horror comedy. I think even the horror's kind of turned down, I want to say. Like, there's elements of the horror in this movie. It's more of an action comedy, right? I think that's kind of what the series kind of evolved, at least in this third iteration, definitely is what it turned into. Sam Raimi once again said, you know what? I don't like the ending of my movie. Well, in this instance, he couldn't use the footage once again, so he said, I'm going to redo it. So he redid the ending of Evil Dead 2. So the ending of Evil Dead 2, we were left with Ash was transported to a medieval time where he became like a savior, right? He saved all these knights from a deadite, and they were all celebrating. He's like, no, this is terrible. This is not what I wanted. That was the ending of Evil Dead 2. Evil Dead 3 opens up similarly, right? We just see him really transported with his car, which is actually Sam Raimi's car in real life, if no one didn't know, which I think that's also
funny.
Crazy. That's in every single one of his movies. He loves his car to be in it. He's like the Bruce Campbell of cars. Anyway, at this point, he's beat up, he's taken captor, and he's brought back to the castle. He's not saving anybody. Sam Raimi wanted to do something different, and I think, for me, this isn't my favorite movie in the franchise. And it's tough to say when I think there is a lot of things to admire about this movie. But for me, I don't know if it successfully works completely. Overall, where do you stand with Army of Darkness?
I do like this movie a lot.
Right.
I just feel that it really, I guess maybe it's a similar situation with Evil Dead 2, where a lot of the more entertaining parts of this film are in like the first half.
Right.
For me, at least.
Yeah.
It's like there's so much story and there's so much happening in the first half, but then the second half, it just kind of like, I don't know, it just falls short, it feels.
I wonder, like, this is one of those movies where there's always behind the scenes turmoil with every Sam Raimi movie. This time it was more with the studio. There was a lot of headbutting with what was being made here. Army of Darkness had a lot of money, right, Adam? I know you were saying earlier when we talked about this briefly, there was a lot of money behind the Army of Darkness to be successful.
Yeah, there was like such an increase. There was millions. I think it was like $11 million of a budget went into this film.
Think about that in terms of like scope for what the other projects were. You're given all this money. You're expected to produce results. So I don't know if there was a lot of pressure there with this movie. It's hard to say with what happened with Army of Darkness. I think the positive thing we can see here is, again, Sam Raimi evolves the series in a different way and does make it interesting. Sure, the horror elements are completely turned down. There's really no kills in this movie.
Yeah.
Let alone that much blood, surprisingly. The Deadites really are kind of, they're villains for sure, but they're kind of like turned, I feel like they're just not that interesting anymore. The Deadite like possession thing seems kind of like second to whatever. The cast is greatly expanded upon. Ash, essentially, this movie feels like it was like, what would happen if I took Ash Williams and I dropped him in a medieval setting, and that was kind of the movie premise. And that's what we got here, I think, for better or worse. It's interesting to see him in this setting. Is it what I wanted? No. But because, once again, if we're going to circle this whole series back, what works all the time? Bruce Campbell. Bruce Campbell is the one thing that's like the light among everything that doesn't work in this movie. Every scene, everything he's in, Bruce Campbell, he outshines it to the 100th degree with his cheesy cornball comedy. Everything actually works when Bruce Campbell's involved in a scene. When he's not in a scene, though, you do feel it a little bit in this movie.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, right away, he's carrying this film. You could see it in the first few scenes because he's like, I don't know, the star of the show.
Right.
But even throughout the whole film, it's just like, it's really about him.
Yeah, and it sucks because I don't know. It does feel like sometimes there is like a slog to get through a little bit in this movie. There are there are a lot more slower scenes than I remember from when I originally watched this. Especially like you said, towards the second half of this movie, once Ash becomes like, he's like kind of in charge of the whole castle, trying to get everyone to prep up for war. The movie really slows down when it really shouldn't have been slowing down at that point. That's really when the action should have been ramping up. It's a weird choice. It's hard to find a lot of things that get my thoughts together cohesively on this movie because itself is all over the place as well. That's why I also feel like I have a hard time talking about it because this movie doesn't know what it wants to do.
It seems like it's so many different tonal shifts. Goes in one direction, I'm really enjoying that direction, then all of a sudden it takes a hard right, and I'm like, oh, well, all right.
It's interesting to see, too, because Sam Raimi, I think in a lot of ways, knows this, right? Because when we get to the middle of the movie, like you said, we get an interesting scene, which it kind of like never really stood out to me until I started thinking about it more, was Ash is like going to find the Necronomicon, which is a hilarious scene. We'll talk about some of our scenes, like some of the scenes that they really do work, a lot of this. I don't want you to think they don't. They are actually really funny. But there's a scene where he stops at like an old windmill, right? It's like an old abandoned windmill, and he goes inside. Essentially, we get another Evil Dead by himself. It's a little more cartoony. It's a little more slapstick. But the best scenes, and I think, again, Sam Raimi knows this, is when Bruce Campbell's left alone to his own devices. That's when we get the most interesting movie. And him fighting a bunch of little mini Ashley Williams running around, it's insane. But it actually works for this series and doesn't feel that out of place.
It's like, let me just take Ash and just multiply him, and then, let's just multiply the comedy.
Army of Darkness is a fun time. I think it is. The problem is it has an identity crisis. It kind of forgot the horror. So if you were a horror fan, you're going to go in a little bit jaded to this movie. You're not going to enjoy it as much right away. If you can look past that and enjoy some of the more comedic moments, I think the comedy is actually better than the action, because the action, we don't get even... Really, when you think about it, too, there's not that much action really in this movie. It's a lot of just the comedy. It's just kind of like, what happens if Ash is in this situation? How's he going to react to this character? Which is all good because Bruce Campbell can pull it off, but that doesn't make for much of a movie.
That's probably why it slows down occasionally. That's probably where this movie suffers. I think it is definitely worth a watch. Just don't go into it thinking that it's going to be a horror film, because it really is not.
Right, and it's interesting because I feel like when there's like a discussion around the Evil Dead, you always hear Army of Darkness come up as like one of the favorites of the series. I always question like how.
It's definitely got more. It seems like it has more of a cult following than the other films. I do love this movie though a lot. I really do. This was one, like, anytime I'm like going to go watch the Evil Dead series, I'm always very excited to get to Army of Darkness. It's just so fun.
And I think, again, a lot of that just has to do with the Bruce Campbell performance. There's so many good scenes in this movie with Bruce Campbell. And it's always fun to see him interact and react to his surroundings. It's what you would think. He doesn't care. He's had it. He's had enough. He's crazy. He's over the edge. So this movie's just silly. Like, even the fact that he has a medieval hand, somehow he got a medieval hand to work on his little stump to work. Makes no sense. Right? Absolutely makes no sense. But it's cool.
I love it.
It's funny.
I love it.
And you can only get away with this in like an Evil Dead movie. The problem is I just don't think the series transitioned the way Raimi would have wanted it to. I don't think it was able to turn into that action adventure with a little bit of horror, dark vibe that he wanted. I don't think it was able to get to that threshold for me.
I think the other part that I enjoy about the film, though, is at the end when he gets back to the his time. I think that part is so well done. I really do enjoy that part, because then it's like it brings everything back. I feel
so let's talk about that part of the movie.
Okay.
This is where I think if you really, again, I keep saying, like, if you really want to sum up what's wrong with Army of Darkness, in my opinion, look no further than the ending. Because there's a couple of them. There's two different endings to this movie, for those who don't know. The first one being the theatrical cut, which Adam just referenced, where Ash like saves the time. He goes back to his own time. The Deadites are still around, but he's all confident now, and he's like blasting at Deadites, and he's saving the world. The series will continue on. The other ending, which was the Sam Raimi director's cut ending, shows Ash going to sleep and waking up in the real distant future in a post-apocalyptic world, and seeing that it's overrun by Deadites and the world has gone to shit and everything like that. And Ash doing the, no, not again, oh my god. Adam, in your opinion, which one do you think works better?
I think the theatrical cut. I really do. I think that just, now it opens up for a story continuation.
But you see, Sam Raimi's original idea was for there to be a Ash that fights robot-infused Deadites in the future.
I mean, that sounds kind of funny.
No, I agree with you, though. It's very interesting. I don't see this very often, but I think the studio made a good choice in their end for their ending. When they screened it, they thought it was too depressing. I have Ash, in the future with everything being still to shit and nothing really changing. So they want to give him a little bit more of a happy send-off. And I think the theatrical cut does that. I think it's a more interesting timeline.
Yeah, it's like it redeems Ash, I guess, in a way.
And the one thing, too, Bruce Campbell, it's funny. He plays him very unlikable, but I still like him in this movie.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Like, Ash Williams is a very unlikable man throughout this entire movie. Sexist, a complete jerk for no apparent reason half of the time. But I kind of get why he is the way he is. I would be too after I was put through all that crap going into the Evil Dead and everything like that. I think I would turn out that way too. But Bruce Campbell, again, it's something only he can get away with. There's not many actors that can do that. He can get away with acting like this. He has such charm around that character, and he knows how this character works.
It's very fun to see his transition through the whole series. It's definitely entertaining, and to kind of see the different shifts in the whole storyline and whatever goes on.
Right, and it's no mystery at this point. Army of Darkness was a huge flop at the box office. It pretty much killed the Evil Dead franchise because it lost so much money for the series. Again, like you said, it still has its fans, and I think it still should have its fans. I don't think it's not the worst thing I've ever seen, but it's just not the most memorable movie in the series for me. If anything, it's just like a fun little spin-off that maybe I'll watch occasionally just because I really like Bruce Campbell, and his dialogue is one of the reasons why I love this movie, which brings me to, fortunately, I don't have a real kill for you guys this episode, which I know is our whole like shtick when it comes to this month. So again, once again, I highly apologize. But you can argue with Sam Raimi for not putting enough kills in this movie. Maybe the biggest kill was the big fountain of blood that shoots out, that's also too hilarious. We talked about each movie. There's a giant fountain of blood that shoots out. This one was out of a well. There's like a Deadite that just shoots up blood and it like bursts into the air. I think that's really cool. That's an awesome kill. Other than that, there's not many kills. So what I want to do is, Adam, what is your favorite quote from Army of Darkness? Because there's a lot. There's a lot of amazing scenes. What would your favorite quote be from this movie?
I'd have to give it to. The's a couple, but
I'll give you two.
I gotta
give me two. Give me two good ones. Two of your favorite ones.
My first one is when Ash is right after I think it's right in the beginning, after he comes out of the well and he's showing off his shotgun.
Yeah.
And he's like,
Yeah. All right, you primitive screwheads, listen up. See this? This is my boomstick!
And then he starts going to explain what the every detail of the shotgun. It's
a 12-gauge double-barreled Remington. S-Mart's top of the line. You can find this in the sporting goods department. That's right, this sweet baby was made in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Retails for about $109.95. It's got a walnut stock, cobalt blue steel, and a hair trigger. That's right.
It's such a good scene. I just very much enjoy that one.
Again, it's only something that Bruce Campbell can add, because that was another weird change. What do you think? We didn't really talk about that. Was they added like a little backstory to Ash Williams that he worked at the S-Mart?
Shop smart. Shop S-Mart. You got that?
That's true. That is true.
I don't know why that was necessarily added in, but it's funny. It kind of worked in this regard. It gave him a little more character to chew through, I guess.
I mean, it definitely set up the theatrical cut though for that ending where he returns to his job.
Yeah, and it just kind of shows he's just an ordinary guy. He's nothing really special.
My second one, I would have to give it to. It should be shortly after that one, I believe. where a deadite appears as they're I think he's they're talking about how to get back, and he's like,
Yo, she-bitch. Let's go.
love that line.
She
It's so
is a
funny.
classic line. I absolutely love
So
that
funny.
too. It's so good. So I'm gonna give you two. My first one is by far, I think it might be one of the most famous lines from this movie. I love that. It's the
It is a
end.
good
It's
one.
once again, it's only in the theatrical cut of this movie.
Yep.
But it is. I think when I think of Ash Williams, Bruce Campbell, I associate that line 100% with him. Just
But in my own way, I am king.
Hail to the king, baby.
associate that cockiness, that coolness to that character because it's so corny, but once again, works with that character. Another one that I really do like, and my wife Julie, she actually loves this one too because we were joking about it, which I guess I never really thought it was funny until maybe more recently. Ash is captured and he's waiting with Duke Henry in order to be like executed or whatever like that.
Well, hello, Mr. Fancy Pants. I got news for you, pal. You ain't leading but two things right now. Jack and shit. And Jack left town.
I don't know why it's so funny, but I can't. I was literally like, I couldn't catch my breath for like a hot minute after hearing them say that. It's such a stupid line, but again, Bruce Campbell just pulls it off so effectively, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's so out of nowhere, and that's what makes it like just so much more enjoyable because it's just like, did he just say that?
And I think these are the moments that make maybe that's why Army of Darkness is so beloved by fans in some weird, strange way. Not because it's great on horror or action or even a good movie in general, but because I guess it gave Bruce Campbell that outlet for him to be successful in his own way and really bring that personality that we all kind of love about the Ashley Williams character.
Mm-hmm.
I think maybe that's why this movie stands such the test of time. But with all that being said, let's give you our final scores. I'm going to give Army of Darkness a B-.
Klaatu, Veranda,
I can't see myself giving this a C+. That's where I was kind of treading, if you want to be honest with you. I was actually leading more into the C range. I hit B- because there's just too many damn good scenes with Bruce Campbell in it. This movie really doesn't work, I don't think, as a whole, or even really as an Evil Dead movie in a lot of ways. Anything that I really liked about Evil Dead is kind of like just whatever. With what it does as far as the character, I can appreciate, and what it did spin off in the future wasn't so bad either. So I'm going to leave it at a B-. Adam, where do you stand with this film?
So I am actually going to give it a B+.
Give me some sugar, baby.
I can't knock it for the quality and the quantity of Bruce Campbell scenes.
Right.
They just make it stand out so much more than I that's why this movie is so enjoyable to me, is because of all the scenes that he's in, because they're just so great. All the lines, like, they're so iconic and they're so memorable. In a way, I remember Army of Darkness more just because of those scenes.
And
so that's why I got to give it.
And like I said, we could sit here for a while and debate it, but I think that is part of it. I really think it is. I think just Bruce Campbell's performance made this movie. And that kind of goes to show, because we didn't see Evil Dead for quite a long time after that.
Right.
We're going to talk about the next movie that was in the franchise that has nothing to do with anything else. But this wasn't the last time that we saw Bruce Campbell as Ashley Williams. He would show up again in Ash vs. Evil Dead, which was a show exclusive to Showtime, which I believe had 3 seasons. From what I remember watching it, I didn't get too deep into it, and I wanted to review it for the channel, but there wasn't enough time. Let's be honest. Watching movies is hard enough as it is. But with that love, we were able to get him to come back. And that series, for what it was, got a couple good seasons, and people seem to really enjoy it. We also got, anytime you just associate Evil Dead, it's always with Bruce Campbell. Bruce Campbell has to be involved. We even got a video game that was based on that Dead by Daylight video game series, that horror series. It's still something there.
And not to mention, I think last night, I think, Ash is now in Fortnite.
Ash is now a Fortnite character. As seen, now all you people at home who have kids, you can say, Ashley Williams, the character exclusively seen in Fortnite. Yeah, that's crazy. He's still around.
Yeah.
Right. He created a legendary character. Nothing else. Army of Darkness is a love letter to that character and, a send-off, I guess, if you want to look at it that way. Our next video, I think, is going to be a very different animal, and I can't wait to share it with you. When we talk about Evil Dead, 2013 remake, oh boy, we got a lot to talk about. But anyway, we'll catch you next time. Thanks for joining us, guys. See ya.
Bye.
If you guys like what you've seen here today, consider giving this video a like and leaving your thoughts in the comments below. If you want to stay up to date with everything Real Movie Guys related, make sure to hit that subscribe button and check us out on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And don't forget, all you audio listeners at home, we are available on many podcasting platforms. Just search The Real Movie Guys, we should pop right up. Thank you again all so much for joining us on this episode of The Real Review. We are The Real Movie Guys. Real guys, real movies, real thoughts. Catch you next time.
Next video.